All right, let's just jump right into this, guys. Part of our weekly video series is Monday. We like to do live streams, guys. First things first, shout out to the stream sponsors over at CoinCatch and Breakout Prop. CoinCatch is the perpetual exchange of choice. They got good pairings, good liquidity, really cool CEO and good team over at CoinCatch. And then also Breakout Prop. They probably are the best crypto prop firm out there. So if you guys have any questions with CoinCatch or Breakout Prop, please reach out to me. Giveaway will be the end of this week for the Breakout Prop giveaway, guys. We're giving away $10,000 evaluations for anyone that wants it. So get on over there and check out CoinCatch and Breakout Prop. So we're just gonna, kind of dive right into this with the NPOC levels, guys. Again, not much has changed. We've had some kind of setups that haven't really transpired. We have some NPOC levels to the downside, right? And BTC is not retesting any of them, right? It has just been straight up no retest. We had one retest at the start of last week, I think it was, on the 22nd. So yeah, sometime during last week, we finally had a retest of an NPOC level, but it wasn't a very deep one. We do have a new print as well right here at about that 107,510. And again, this is kind of one of those things that we've been talking about over in the Telegram, guys. The digs lower just aren't really happening. The dips are so fucking shallow, especially on BTC, right? And that's the thing. BTC is still kind of moving these markets. That it's the one that's obviously sitting around all-time highs. It's the one that most people are interested in. BTC conference. It's not a crypto conference. It's literally a Bitcoin conference, right? So big things coming from BTC in the future. In my opinion, I think that we are just kind of starting out. And honestly, the technicals, I don't want to say that they're obvious because a lot can kind of happen. I don't want people to just like blindly long because, I say something, but the technicals are really key on what is transpiring up here at previous all-time highs, right? Had that rejection and then here we are, right? So yes, probably some whipsaw action breaking into price discovery because that's normally what happens. Nobody knows when the downside's gonna happen. No one's really selling, no one's really buying because it's too high, but nobody's really kind of taking profits on all this. But I will say that technical wise, we are building a base off of previous all-time highs, which is exactly what you wanna see, right? Still kind of ranging within this area. And I think that, this is probably likely what's going to happen. We might dig a little bit deeper. Obviously, I would like us to dig a little bit deeper, but at the same time, BTC just hasn't really been offering very many dips, guys. But that is why I still think the main focus for me and for you guys should be altcoins and Ethereum. Now, I will say that they've been a little bit sluggish, and when BTC has dropped a little bit of percentage, then, they kind of do tank a little bit. And that's something that you need to put in place with like risk-wise when it comes to like longing those altcoins and all that sort of stuff. But NPOC levels have not changed, guys. 107,510, 105,273, 102,973. Now, me personally, I would love a retest. Are we gonna get it? I don't know. I'm not anticipating it, right? I think that all of our long entries still do stay the same. We have a couple of them from this month to where, all the way down to 99,184 if we get it. Now, that these setups, just because they haven't happened yet, doesn't mean that they're like invalidated, right? If price does happen to drop to these levels at some point, maybe we leg higher and then something like that happens. I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, how all-time high breaks is going to transpire within BTC, but what I do know is that I'll be ready. I'll be ready to be buying if we get a dip. Now, I know a lot of people are saying that they're ready for the dip, yada, yada, this and that. They want a dip, but most of the time, people will likely get bearish on the dips, right? Oh, rejection of all-time highs, barely broke all-time highs, we're gonna dip, yada, yada, this and that. So just have your game plans mapped out and stick to them, right? The 3 steps for a completed trade. Plan the trade, have patience for the trade, and then execute that fucking trade, guys. The third part is the hardest. The execution is the hardest because even though you plan for it perfectly, you can have the game plan be exactly what happens. But if your execution is off, then you're not going to be profitable on that trade. So always remember that, guys. Have patience within all of your trades. So this was kind of that range that we were talking about within BTC and Ethereum as well, kind of Ethereum establishing that. I think it was between like 2,700 and 2,400. And it's like kind of chopping within that zone before next leg higher. That's the idea with this, within this setup here. We have NPOC prints, we have impulse moves higher. There's those gaps that could potentially be reset. But, at the end of the day, guys, I am not planning for this. I am not planning for BTC to drop below 100K, at least right now. I think things leg higher. I think sideliners are still going to be staying sidelined, especially on BTC. I have a lot of spot BTC. I haven't opened up a leverage BTC position in a while over on CoinCatch, and it's probably going to continue to stay that way, only for the sole fact that, we were bidding BTC so much lower, right? We had multiple setups down in this area. And again, for the new people that weren't around during this time, right? This is kind of why I'm not really interested in bidding. We had so many longs down in this 75K area, right? We've just been wanting to long this area for a really long time. And so we got that, we've been longing, we took some profits. Did we take some profits a little too early? Yeah, but that's not the point, right? We were wanting to long the lows. that we created last year, right? We really wanted to long some of these NPOC levels down. Now, did we leave some lower NPOC levels? Yeah, of course. That doesn't mean that it's going to retest those levels right now, but I will say that there is a lot of prints within the NPOC chart that I would like to get cleared out. You know, it would just be good for that next leg higher, right? Because once you kind of clear out these levels, you can kind of understand that that liquidity has kind of been tapped from previous days. Maybe there's a lot of downside, maybe there's some sell pressure, and then you can kind of get that move higher, right? So obviously I'd like to be dip buying some of this, but if we don't get it, then we don't get it, right? So be ready for it, but also know if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. You know, we were longing a lot lower. We have current range where we were kind of like longing in this area. So for me, taking profits up in here is what you're looking to do. I kind of like to trade the opposite. I look to be buying on red days and selling on green days. And right now we are at all-time highs. We have had a lot of green days. And for me, it's just not the ideal long entry. So again, ready for the drops, ready for the dips if they happen. But as of right now, they have been pretty shallow. So for me, guys, it's the same thing. I still want lower on Ethereum. And this was the mistake I made last weekend. I didn't have patience for the lower NPOC print. And we do have a lower NPOC print at 2404. And so again, having patience for that, right? Whether it happens today, tomorrow, maybe a couple of days, I still think that is the best opportunity for Ethereum as in a risk reward entry on the short term, right? Because we know Ethereum's doing some good stuff. We know that we had this 4-hour current range that we continued to watch for a while, and it worked out perfectly. We ran up, closed at 26.52, and then we ran back down to that 25.08. That's where that NPOC print is. It's right here. We got some entries. We made back 10K. Boom, here we are today, kind of still trying to figure out what we want to do next within this. And so we know what we want to do next, right? We have our setups. We have our long at 2404. We also have an NPOC print at 25.16, right? From yesterday, I think it was. So I do want a retest of those levels. Does that mean that altcoins maybe take a hit? Yeah. But at the end of the day, for me and my trading and risk reward, I'm going to have patience for 2404 NPOC print on Ethereum. It just makes the most sense. You know, if we go down into a low term time frame current range, you know, we can kind of see that that is towards the lower limit of this range. And again, this is kind of, we can probably argue it's something like this now. Had a touch here. And then if we do retest this level, guess what? This is a 4-hour low term time frame, lower limit. So that is confluence with this NPOC print at 2404. If we retest that area, that is a long area for me that I'm going to be bidding heavily on ETH, and then probably also looking to be bidding altcoins as well. Which altcoins am I going to be bidding? Well, the ones that I already have those starter positions for. Pepe, Bonk, Pengu, just those three. That's what I'm looking for on ETH, guys. Again, I have patience. I'm going to be busy this week. I'm not really too focused on getting massive position sizes right now. Things have kind of slowed. Again, is it the end of the world that price action has slowed? Not at all. You know, I think that, you know, getting into price discovery for BTC is that, of course, it's going to be slow. Of course, price action is going to be whipsaw. Of course, it's going to be hard to trade, right? It's price discovery. But something on Ethereum, you know, I think that there's still really, really good setups, really good support levels that you can find and establish an entry at. I have seen a lot of chatter about this. I don't know much about it. This is the first time I think I'm going to be looking at the chart. Not a bad chart, honestly. I mean, I like the bottom. These things are so new. I don't know if this is when it was created or if there's more data prior to February 6th, but this looks pretty good for a decent double bottom here. There's been a lot of chatter about it. And then, you know, obviously you can kind of target that 480. Very, very basic TA on something like this. You don't need to overcomplicate something like this, especially if you're buying spot. Kind of sitting at lows, which is a support area, which is good. You know, may dig a little bit deeper, but yeah, if you're buying spot here, I think it's pretty good risk reward to at least retest that 450. We did kind of talk about this kind of having like that double bottom potentially. I mean, you could technically say the double bottom already was established at this 26 cent. Now we're trading at 37 cents, you know. Decent move to the upside, not really willing to chase it, but this is one that I was very bullish on when it first launched. I had a good entry back in the day and round tripped everything on this one, but it is what it is. You're not gonna hit everything. You know, I wanted this first bounce at 36, broke below, and now back above 37. I don't know. Not too focused on ENA, but I do think that this is like a pretty easy, you know, W pattern here, kind of formulating, don't, double bottom, boom. Something like that. So ENA is not bad. I'm not against ENA. Yeah, I own some hype. You know, I ended up buying some kind of like on the midst of this rally, just spot. I didn't really use any leverage or anything like that. But I mean, hype is just, they're just doing it, man. You know, I've kind of talked about this last time. I'm a little skeptical of Hyperliquid. I can't use it. I don't trade it. Yes, I can use VPN, all that sort of stuff. But, you know, for me, it's like, I don't like that shit. It's so annoying when you have this great platform and all this stuff. I can't use it. So it's like, it's just annoying, but I can buy hype, right? So that doesn't mean that I can't capitalize on what it is. Kind of like FTX, right? Their FTT coin. You didn't have to use FTX, but people made a shit ton of money on FTT. And that's kind of like the way that I'm using it, or the way that I'm like approaching it. I'm not going to use Hyperliquid. I don't plan on using Hyperliquid. I think the marketing for it is great. Everybody's been talking about it, just like everybody was talking about FTX and FTT. And so I buy Hype. You know, I bought Hype. I don't know what my average is. It's somewhere in the 20s, right? I'm up on it. I still plan on holding it. Would I buy here? Nah, I wouldn't buy at 38. I think that it is going to go higher, but I would wait for any sort of discount. You are paying the highest premium that Hype has ever been. And, you know, it's just not really where I'm looking to pay. Oh, fucking that Wynn guy, man. That's been all the chatter right now. I'm so fucking sick of that real James Wynn. I mean, I don't know if he's even a real fucking person. I saw that he was on Crypto Banter this morning. Who knows who he is, but I think honestly, there's just been so much going into his positions. Whatever. I don't give a fuck about a billionaire that's losing millions on trades, right? That happens every fucking day within the stock market, happens every day. I think it's a marketing stunt from Hyperliquid. I think it's someone within the company that's just showing, hey, there's large size. You can get filled from the short side to the long side within $1 billion, you know, and I just think it's a great marketing scheme altogether from Hyperliquid. You know, I don't really think that what he's doing is the best trading, right? He's kind of getting chopped up back and forth, yada, yada, this and that. But what I think is happening is Hyperliquid is doing a great job showing people like, hey, look, you can get fills here. The liquidity is great. The volume is great. And then boom, you know, Hyperliquid's been the chatter for like the last 2-3 weeks. And so they've done a really, really good job with that. James Wynn, I don't know what's going on with him, but all I know is that he's a fucking billionaire, and shout out to that guy. I hope he wins. This game plan that we created last stream, I think still stays pretty valid for me, to where, you know, if we do get a retest lower, that would be, you know, what I'm looking for. You know, it was a resistance point at one point. We rejected there, and then we kind of lagged higher, and, you know, I would like a retest of between that, I think we said 165, 155 area. If you can get your average within that, that would be, you know, a good area. I do like SOL long term. You know, I hold a lot of SOL spot long term. If you've learned anything from this cycle, is that SOL's here to stay on everything that's been built on it. You know, yes, you can argue that maybe the meme craze wasn't good for crypto. Yes, you could argue that, you know, maybe the pump fund shit, all that stuff just isn't good for crypto. But at the same time, it brought a lot of volume. It brought a lot of new eyes to crypto industry with meme coins. So you can't argue that SOL's going to be here for a while. And I do think it breaks all-time highs at some point. Yeah, I like this one, you know, Celestia. I didn't trade it. I kind of lost on this one, I think. But, you know, we did have some nice moves. Actually, probably interested in this one again now that's at the 260, which was really where we initially longing in the first place. So definitely interested in TIA. I think that this one does go a lot higher. A lot of bag holders created. It is kind of chopping. So if you are longing this, either one, have spot, have patience, or, you know, if you are in good profits, take some profits on a scalp trade, a leverage trade, whatever you think, because, you know, I think for me, I gave it back a couple times, right? Like here, gave it back, and, you know, just the choppiness is killing people right now. And I get it, you know, it made me lose money last weekend. So having a little bit of patience with all this stuff, and I do think that TIA does see that $3.80, $4, $4.50 range. So definitely interested in getting back into TIA. Look at BTC dominance a little bit. Obviously, it's picking up. I think a lot of people were saying that BTC had topped. And, you know, for me, I don't know. You know, obviously, I'd like for BTC to top, but just because I like for it to top doesn't mean that it's going to. And we still had a target between, you know, that 65 and 73% to where I think it's going to top. Is that a large range for it to top? Yes. I don't know exactly. We're basing it off prior cycles. So, you know, for me, I am not going to call the top of this fucking thing anymore. I'm not going to call the bottom of ETH BTC. Like, I have tried on those for years, thinking that the bottom was in, the top was in, and it's just going against us every single time, right? So just going to continue to watch this. I do think 70% is realistic based off of what has happened back in 2020, which again, that 4-year cycle, you know, maybe we don't go all the way to 70%. Maybe we only go to 68%, right? But again, it's within this area, I think a rejection on BTC dominance happens. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you for everything. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being a part of VIP Telegram. I'm going to be doing another giveaway based off of the conference. Maybe like Thursday or Friday, I'm going to do another $500 giveaway for you guys. Appreciate you guys here. Appreciate you joining, being a part of my community, and I will see you over in the Telegram, guys. Peace out.